All right, back here on Sportsline, and we are going to dive into March Madness now. Last night on the Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central, John Burton, myself, we created a bracket. And I want to give a little deeper because time constraints last night. It was a whirlwind to get it all out, and you're going to see that coming up. It's a fast-moving thing to get through this entire bracket. But here's essentially the idea. No tournament this year, played out on the court. And as hard as that was, I think it makes sense to a lot of people. The place we are in terms of a health crisis in the country, you couldn't afford to have people in those arenas. You certainly could have had fans there. And so the decision itself made sense. The thing that never made sense to me, as very few things from the NCAA often do, is the fact that they didn't take time when the selection committee had already gathered. Both the men's and women's selection committees were in Indianapolis, all ready to do their work for the weekend. When this happened, the decision was made that we're not going to have an NCAA tournament this year. So when that happened, I thought, okay, the games are over. You guys have already assembled. These teams have worked all year for an accomplishment. We may not be able to crown a national champion on the court, but we should at least be able to tell people who earned their way to the tournament. And for America, we should have a bracket that we can talk about and debate and fodder over for the next few weeks. Give people that at least, because it's something that's such a fabric of our society. You could still fill out a bracket if you wanted, even if the games weren't coming, or, initially there was some thought that maybe you could just postpone the tournament for a while too. That seems even less likely now that we know where we're going here. But give us a bracket to talk about. And more importantly than giving us a bracket to talk about, give the teams the reward. I mean, think about this. 1991 was the last time Rutgers was in the NCAA tournament. 1991. This year's team had earned its way there. Hofstra won the Northeast Conference Championship. They were in the tournament for the first time since 2001. The Pride could have some real pride in that. But when you don't have a bracket, are you really in? Penn State, been a while. There's a lot of schools that had been a while getting to the tournament or extending streaks. I mean, think about it. The Tennessee Lady Vols never missed an NCAA tournament in a year since the tournament started under the NCAA's wing. They didn't go this year. And they were on the bubble. It's not a 100% guarantee that the Lady Vols would have been in the tournament, but they probably would have been. But we don't have a bracket to know. And so forevermore, there's going to have to be this sort of conversation with the Lady Vols that they've been in every tournament except for 2020. When they might have been in, they might not have been in, but we don't know because of COVID-19. And I just don't get, when they were already assembled there, take the time to do it. Give us the bracket, give those teams the reward, even if we can't ultimately play the tournament. So that bothered me, that so many athletes, so many coaches, so many schools, so many fan bases didn't get the reward from this season, even if they weren't going to have the chance to play it out. So I wanted to create a bracket. I've always kind of been a geek in that way, always sort of made brackets of my own, following the selection committee criteria. The only difference is it's me, not a committee. And so let's come up with what I think the bracket's going to look like and kind of weigh it off of some other brackets, the respective bracketologists and stuff. Nothing was too far off. Maybe a seed here. I don't think anything was 2 seeds off of anybody in the entire bracket. So came up with a bracket that we put together. And then it was like, okay, now we have the bracket, but let's do something fun with it. Let's actually play this out. As opposed to just debating it, what you think's going to happen, let's try to play it out the best way that we possibly can. And so here's the confusing part. Before we get in, I really want to explain this well so you can follow it here. The way we played this out is there is a service that you can follow if you're a hoops junkie like me, or even head coaches I know oftentimes use it. It's very analytical driven, and it's Ken Pomeroy. The website is kenpom.com. And there's all sorts of analytics that go into the site. Most often used are his offensive and defensive efficiency ratings. And so what I did is I took each team's offensive and defensive efficiency, and I essentially created a formula for what those numbers meant against the opponent's numbers, and came up with a predicted score for the games. And basically I took the predicted score. Whatever the predicted score was what we used as a final score. Now, there are a couple things there. When the predicted score was within a point, I called it an overtime game, and then I flipped a coin. Overtime games oftentimes come down to a possession. That can sometimes be as good of a coin flip. So we flipped a coin at that point to see who would win, who would move on. I also took the liberty, because it was becoming evident that it was going to be pretty chalky using the analytic measures of it, and what's the NCAA tournament without an upset or two, right? So I also took the liberty to find some upsets that I just thought were going to happen to ruffle up the whole apple cart. And so you'll see a few of those in there as well. Not because the analytics said so, but just because you have to have upsets in March Madness. That's part of what makes it great. And then the last piece of thing that we used, mainly as a storytelling tool, because we are a television medium after all, but it did factor in a little bit to how these games played out, is the video. So we have a huge archive of video from college basketball season in-house, but it's not endless necessarily. And so you have to look at what you have. And so then we would take actual plays from games that these teams played in actual games this season and took their highlights to help tell the story, in some cases shaping the story and how it went. So that's how it all played out. It was not random. It was pretty focused, but there were a few upset picks in there that skewed away from the formula. There were a couple highlights that changed the way things played out just a little bit. But mainly, it played out due to the formula we had, and we just picked teams round by round by round until we ultimately crowned a national champion. So anyway, that's why we did this. We wanted things to talk about. We wanted to give you a little bit of something to get your mind off everything and sit at home and just enjoy it. We also wanted to give recognition where it's due to the players and the schools that deserve to be in an NCAA tournament this year, even if they couldn't play their games. And then ultimately, we just wanted to have fun with it. For a half an hour, which we did last night, we're going to do it again tonight. Let's just have fun with what this NCAA tournament is going to look like. So without further ado, let's get into it. March Madness, the News Channel 5 mock bracket, starting right now here on Sportsline. If you're anything like me, you are craving sports, the action, the debate, and above all else this month, March Madness.
Well, Steve, we're in luck because that bracket is going to be blank no more. Tonight on the show, we're going to unveil what very possibly could have been the NCAA Tournament's Field of 68 and then play it out round by round, game by game until we crown a champion and, of course, finish things off with a tradition unlike any other, friends, one shining moment.
That's exactly right. The NCAA dropped the ball, as usual, and didn't even give us a bracket to debate, robbing schools like Hofstra and Rutgers of their first tournament appearance in decades. We're going to fix that. Schools like East Tennessee State or Bradley, they could pull off historic upsets. We'll see if they can. So here's how this is going to work. We selected our Field of 68 using all the games played until the season was stopped. So the 13 schools that already won their conference tournaments, like Belmont and ETSU, they're in. Every other conference's automatic bid will go to its regular season champ, with the rest of the field to be at-large selections chosen by the same criteria that the selection committee would have been looking at.
And once the field is set, we're going to actually play out the games using Ken Pomeroy's trusted analytics and offensive and defensive efficiency to help predict scores, actual game highlights from this season. We are a television station after all, and coin flips to decide any overtime games.
Yeah, toss in a couple of random upset picks as well, because of course that's what makes the tourney great. and maybe a little hometown bias, and we are off and running with the madness. So without further ado, here are your 2020 NCAA Tournament #1 seeds. Big 12 champion Kansas is the #1 overall seed. Bill Self Jayhawks finished the season #1 in both polls at 28-3. Gonzaga is the #2 overall seed after going 31-2. Baylor checks in third at 26-4, and Atlantic 10 champ Dayton, having the best season in school history, is the 4th #1 seed.
And we waste no time diving into those brackets. Let's go to the Midwest region, headlined by #1 overall seed Kansas, who will face Robert Morris, who edged Prairie View A&M in the first-round game in Dayton. The 8 seeds, LSU taking on 9 seed Rutgers in the tournament for the first time in 29 years. The 5 seed is BYU, who will take on the 12 seed Stephen F. Austin. 4 seed Oregon gets NEC champ Vermont. Defending national champion Virginia is the 6th seed. They'll take on Wichita State, a team that won by 5 over Richmond in Dayton. 3 seed Michigan State meets Bradley in a rematch of last year's first round. Illinois returns to the tournament for the first time since 2013 to take on Arizona State. And Big East champ Creighton's the 2 seed in the Midwest, taking on North Dakota State.
On that same side of the bracket, Dayton's the #1 seed in the East region, led by National Player of the Year Obi Toppin. The Flyers will meet Winthrop in round 1. St. Mary's in Florida is the 8-9 game. 5 seed Butler will play Ivy League champ Yale, while Big Ten co-champ Maryland takes on MAC champion Akron. Jerron Howard's Michigan Wolverines meet Cincinnati in the 6-11 game. Seton Hall's the 3 seed against UC Irvine. Penn State's back in the tournament for the first time since 2011 and will meet last year's runner-up, 10 seed Texas Tech. Duke is the East #2 seed and will face Northern Kentucky.
To the other side of that bracket, the #2 overall seed, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, Mark Few's team, making its 21st straight tourney appearance, led by Philip Petrusev, 17 points a game. The Zags will meet Siena, which beat North Carolina Central in the first 4. The rest of the West region has Providence, Oklahoma. That's your 8-9 game. Auburn as the 5 seed against NC State after the Wolfpack took out UCLA in Dayton. 4 seed Wisconsin taking on WAC champ New Mexico State. West Virginia, the 6th seed. They'll face 30-4 SoCon champ East Tennessee State. OVC champ Belmont, the 14th seed, taking on the 3 seed Villanova. The Miller brothers, Sean and Archie, dueling it out as Arizona meets Indiana in the 7-10 game, and the 2 seed San Diego State.
The committee loves their storylines.
Yes, they do. And the 2 seed San Diego State rounds out the West bracket against Eastern Washington.
And finally, we head to the South region where Jared Butler and Maceo Teague lead top seed Baylor. Scott Drew's Bears will face Boston U in the opening round. Also in the South, 8 seed Colorado takes on #9 Marquette. Ohio State's the 5 seed against Atlantic Sun champ Liberty. 4 seed Louisville takes on North Texas. Iowa's the 6th seed versus 11 seed Utah State. SEC champ Kentucky faces 14 seed Hofstra. Houston and USC meet in the 7-10 game. And Florida State is the 2 seed against Sunbelt winner Little Rock. So the field is now set. And now we get to play these things out. If you think Thursday and Friday of opening weekends normally fast and furious, buckle up.
That's right. Here we go with round 1 highlights, Steve. Starting with in the Midwest, the 8-9 game, LSU taking on Rutgers. Tigers leading, under 3 to go, but off the steal, Ron Harper Jr. God, I feel old. With the hand 1 to make Daddy proud. Harper with 24. Rutgers wins 79-76. 12 seed Stephen F. Austin taking on the 5 seed BYU. Cougars up 1 with the ball late. Lumberjacks come up with the loose ball, and Nathan Bain goes the other way to beat the buzzer. One of the plays of the year, Stephen F. Austin celebrates the 12-5 upset. So it'll be Kansas, which rolled past Robert Morris against Rutgers. Stephen F. Austin against Oregon, which dispatched Vermont 81-73.
All right, Virginia, the defending national champion, take on Wichita State, who emerged from the first 4 in Dayton. Second half of a tight, low-scoring game. Jamarius Burton off the bounce, bucket and the harm, and the Shockers pull off a shocker, taking out the defending champs 54-51. Wichita State will now face 3 seed Michigan State, which had no problems with Bradley. Illinois gets a double-double from freshman Kofi Coburn to beat Arizona State and set up a second-round showdown with Mitch Ballack and 2 seed Creighton. To the East region and the 8-9 game between Florida and St. Mary's. Kerry Blackshear off the feed, gets it and the foul. Chomp, chomp. Blackshear with 18 as the Gators win. 5-seed Butler and Yale tied up late, and what's March Madness without a little bit of Gus Johnson?
Don't settle deep. 5, Baldwin. Step back for the win. Come on, Baldwin.
It's the Gus Magic, Baldwin and Butler with the shot of the tournament so far, and the Bulldogs survive by 3. Butler will now face 4-seed Maryland, which beat Akron by 10 behind a big game from Stick Smith. Top seed Dayton also moved on easily.
So last year's national champs already out. Would runner-up Texas Tech have a similar fate? Lamar Stevens, 25 points, 11 rebounds to give 7-seed Penn State a lead, but Davide Morete comes up with another big shot late. Red Raiders pulled out 63-61. Davide, I should say. Tech will now face Duke, a 95-72 winner over Northern Kentucky. 3-seed Seton Hall beats UC Irvine, and now will face the 6-seed Michigan, who got 17 points from Xavier Simpson to down Cincinnati 72-64. West Region, 8-9 game between Providence and Oklahoma. Bradley Mannix leads the Sooners with 19, and this game heads to overtime. We're tied at 65, but Lawan Pipkins coming up big for the Friars in OT as they escape 73-71. Providence will now face top seed Gonzaga, while 5-seed Auburn takes out NC State to move on to face 4-seed Wisconsin, which ousted New Mexico State.
All right, to Albany now for East Tennessee State and West Virginia. The Mountaineers are the 6th seed, but the Buccaneers won 30 games for a reason. Trey Boyd with 6 threes. He finished with 23, and ETSU moves on 67-64. Would it be one big Tennessee party in upstate New York? 14-seed Belmont in the tournament for a second straight year against 3-seed Villanova. Adam Kunkel bangs home the 3. He had 19, and the Bruins have a second-half lead. And then how about Grayson Murphy? Goes inside to the Moose, Nick Mazinski, and Belmont finishes off the Tennessee two-step with a shocker over Nova. And we're thrilled to be joined now by the coach of those Belmont Bruins, Casey Alexander. Casey, for the longest time, Belmont was a trendy pick in the Big Dance. What's it mean now that people are just simulating the program right on into round 2?
Hey, if people are talking about your team and you're winning games of any kind at this time of the year, it's a great thing. So we're happy to still be playing.
And a lot of your players like Kunkel and Murphy got experience in the tournament a year ago. They got themselves back into that position again this year. Given all they've been through, where does your program stand moving towards the next couple of seasons with that experience?
It says we ought to have some expectations. We returned 3 all-conference players, Nick Muzinski, Grayson Murphy, Adam Kunkel, and a lot of other guys that made real meaningful contributions. So, we ought to be excited about next year. And if and when we ever get back to practicing, it'll be a great day.
Well, Casey, enjoy that NCAA tournament victory and stay safe out there. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, congrats, Coach. Moving on to the Miller family reunion. His big brother Sean in Arizona battled little brother Archie in Indiana. Nico Mannion leading the way for the Wildcats. Archie throws a fit on the sidelines, and as Arizona advances to face the 2-seed San Diego State. South Region, 8-seed Colorado and the 9-seed Marquette. Marcus Howard, the nation's leading scorer, 28 points a game, goes for 33 in this one as the Golden Eagles hold off Colorado 77-75. Marquette to face the top seed Baylor, which cruised by Boston U. 5-seed Ohio State getting past Liberty and into a second-round matchup with the 4-seed Louisville. 6-seed Iowa was led by All-American Luka Garza. He's the first player since Glenn Big Dog Robinson to average more than 20 a game in Big Ten play. Went for 28 in this one. Hawkeyes edge Utah State 80-77. Up next for the Hawks, 3-seed Kentucky, which took out Hofstra 85-72, 7-seed Houston, and 2-seed Florida State also advancing. So with that, we're on to round 2, Steve.
Are you keeping up? From 68 down to 32, and now tickets to the Sweet 16, starting with the second down showdown between Tennessee mid-majors Belmont and East Tennessee State. 14-seed versus 11-seed Nick Mazinski working inside again. The Moose gives Belmont a second-half lead, but Bo Hodges goes for 24, and ETSU's dream season keeps on going. 88-83 into the Sweet 16 for the first time since 1968. The Bucks will now face 2-seed San Diego State, who got 11 from Vandy transfer Yanni Wetzel in a 70-66 win over Arizona. The top half of the bracket will feature top seed Gonzaga, who took out Providence, and 5-seed Auburn, which outslugged 4-seed Wisconsin.
South Region second round, 3-seed Kentucky taking on the 6-seed Iowa. Wildcats had no answer for Luka Garza. But SEC Player of the Year Emmanuel Quickley with back-to-back threes in overtime as Kentucky holds on 80-79. Staying in the South, the top 2 seeds advance to the Sweet 16. Baylor beats Marquette 79-71. Florida State taking out Houston 69-63. 5-seed Ohio State and the 4-seed Louisville also went into overtime, but big man Caleb Wesson doing damage in the paint. He had 19 and 11. Buckeyes eliminate the Cards 76-74.
Finish of the second round between 7-seed Illinois, 2-seed Creighton. Game tied at 76, final seconds. Lana with the ball, and they're going to Ayo Dosunmu. How many big shots has he hit this year? They will be toasting him at Cams for years to come as the Illini are headed back to the Sweet 16. They'll face 3-seed Michigan State, which got a big second half from freshman Rocket Watts to pull away from pesky Wichita State. Top seed Kansas ends Rutgers' run. And the Cinderella run's over for Stephen F. Austin. Peyton Pritchard, 6 threes, 22 points as 5-seed Oregon takes out the 12-seed Lumberjacks 76-65.
East region, where the chalk is moving along. Top seed Dayton down in Florida. Maryland beating Butler 67-58. And Duke taking out Texas Tech, leaving one more spot up for grabs in the Sweet 16. Michigan and Seton Hall, they go to overtime. Wolverines go down low to John Teske. Sweet touch with the left hand. Michigan pulls this one out in OT. All right, we run through the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 coming up next. And later, see who cuts down the nets as our News Channel 5 national champion on this special Electric Power Company Sunday Sports Central.